In May, Chrysler reported a 30% increase in U.S. sales. That's from a year ago, thanks in part to a revamped lineup of its Chrysler 300, and also its Jeep Grand Cherokee. Also, its all-American classic, yes, the Dodge Charger. And Bloomberg News reporter Jason Harper, he had the difficult assignment of taking the SRT8 out for a spin, and he joins me now with more on the latest addition to Chrysler's lineup. Jason, thanks for coming in. All right, you didn't do this in the car.
I did not do this in the car.
Okay,
No,
go
shoulder
ahead.
surgery.
All right,
It's got nothing to do.
You're
But
getting better.
It will keep me off the racetrack for about a couple of weeks for sure.
Tell me about getting into the seat of the SRT8.
Here's what's interesting is I get into different cars all the time. A couple years ago, getting to Chrysler products was not a thrill. I was not, looking forward to getting the interior of, like the Charger, the Challenger, the 300. These were cars that were not really prime time ready. When Chrysler took the big nosedive, I certainly wasn't surprised. A couple years on, post the Fiat coming together, what I realize is these are cars that are nice to get into. Suddenly, there's a systemic change within, the cars themselves. I get in and I think this is not a bad place to be. So last week I did, 500-mile road trip on Michigan roads in the Dodge Charger SRT8, which is the top-of-the-line model. Got the big Hemi engine in it. But more than that, it's sort of a muscle car. You figure it's going to be fast. You figure it's going to have a great 0 to 60 time. What really surprised me was it was comfortable. On a long road trip, it wasn't a bad place to be. Good seats, electronics that actually work, a navigation system that actually sends you to the right place. And it's spending the time in those seats that you really learn that these are the things that are important.
V8, 5-speed manual transmission?
This was an automatic. Now,
okay.
This is still a hang-up that Chrysler has. Their transmissions, their automatic transmissions, are several generations behind.
Right.
They've just now started releasing 8-speed automatic transmissions, but a lot of the 2012 models are still saddled with 5-speed. They're automatics. They're clunky. They're not as good on gas. So there's still this vestiges of problems that you can see. Well, this is what used to sink them, but they're bringing along this 8-speed, which makers like Lexus and Mercedes and Audi are all using.
What does a fully loaded Charger cost?
The one I drove, which had just about everything on it, was about $48,000, which is obviously high end. But the nice thing is, the sort of mid-level you can get into for about $32,000. Will still be plenty fast, a little better on gas savings, and have enough luxuries in them, where you don't feel like you're being deprived of luxuries. They're comfortable, and the fact is, we're not going 0 to 60 in 3 seconds every day. We don't need to go 150. It's nice to be able to do those things in a muscle car, but what you really want is to be able to commute every day and not be miserable.
Who's the competition that Chrysler is going after with this model?
Well, certainly Ford, Ford and Chevy. The Chevy Camaro has just done amazingly for Chevy.
Very popular.
And they've just released their new ZL1, which is their very high-end level. The car that I just drove, the SRT8, is the sort of, the very powerful adrenalized version. The ZL1 Camaro is got 600 horsepower, more than any of us really need. But you solve all problems with horsepower. But it is a Camaro. It is the Mustang. These are cars you always see, police driving around Michigan. I saw more than a few other Chargers in my rear view. You recognize them as being police cars. And that's a market that they're also very aware of. That's a market that makes money, selling to police companies.
I mentioned the Jeep Grand Cherokee. That's the one on the platform that comes from the Daimler Chrysler link up.
Yeah.
How's that doing? That's gotten good reviews.
Again, this was a model that not so long ago I got in. The interior was just crappy. It wasn't a place you wanted to be. It's another great example of they've really refined it. It still does well off-road if you would ever choose to do that off-road. Most people don't. But it's got things like automatic windshield wipers. It senses moisture. There's things that sort of variable headlights. These things that sense another car coming on and they will dim the lights. These are things that you use every day and that consumers really notice. And when they do cross-shop something like a Mercedes, they want to find these things in American cars too. So Chrysler's now finally introducing those.
And at a lower price point.
And at a lower price point. Yeah, absolutely. So that makes a big difference.
I want to thank you very much. I'll go for a drive with you anytime.
Why wouldn't you?
Jason Harper joining us, Bloomberg News, telling us about the latest lineup from Chrysler.